Jovan, Buha! Buha!
Yo, I'm Jovan Buha, Lakers beat writer for The Athletic, and welcome to another Lakers postgame reaction show. I just got back from my couch. I did not make it to the game tonight. I'm under the weather, as you guys could tell, the last couple of days with my voice, and with the Lakers about to have a 9-day road trip starting at the end of the week. I decided to take tonight off and just cover from home. So wrote about LeBron reaching 50,000 points and am now going live a little bit earlier than usual, which is nice for a change. Still late night gang, but a little bit earlier than normal late night gang. But I'm bearing the lead here because the Lakers won their 7th straight game of the season, 136-115 over the New Orleans Pelicans. It is the first time this season the Lakers have won 7 games in a row. They set a season high in points with those 136 points. LeBron reached 50,000 career points between the regular season and the postseason. He had a monster game with 34 points. Luka had 30 points and 15 assists, joining LeBron as one of only 4 Lakers to put up that stat line. He also was a team best plus 37 from the floor. It just completely changed the complexion of the game. You saw like New Orleans had no shot whenever Luka was on the floor. And most importantly, the Lakers got the win and they maintained number 2 in the West. So we got a lot to touch on with tonight's show. But before we get started, you guys know the drill. For those watching on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on channel notifications, and like and comment on this video. For those listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. Before we get into the game, I just wanted to give a quick acknowledgement. Today is the 1-year anniversary of Buha's Block, my video podcast that is on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts. But today officially marks 1 year since I started it. I had started my YouTube channel about like a month and a half before, but was just doing some vlogs, some videos of LeBron and AD talking. And then I had started to do a few post-game reactions before that point. But going back a year ago, I had Austin Reeves and Trent Swaim, his best friend and the co-creator of Hillbilly Bogey, on for episode 1 of Buha's Block. And I don't even think I had 1,000 subscribers. Maybe I was around there. But now, flash forward a year later, 24,000 plus subscribers on YouTube and averaging about 15 plus thousand listens per each episode and live stream, and on the audio side, 3,000 plus downloads per episode. So it's been great to grow this out. I can truly say this has been the most fulfilling and satisfying thing I've ever done in my life creatively. I put in so many hours into this podcast. I'm my own editor. I do my own social clips. And just in terms of researching and testing, you guys have seen, this is the 4th time I bought this mic, just testing out different mics. And I edit my own audio, and sometimes that comes with some downsides, with some of the glitching and some of the things that have gone wrong. But it's been a learning process for me over the past year, and I cannot thank you all enough for listening, watching, subscribing, following, downloading, liking, commenting, reviewing, supporting, sharing, just anyone that has listened and been a part of the past year. I cannot thank you all enough. I appreciate it so much. To all my guests, thank you all for coming on and helping me build this out. And to the mods, thank you for moderating the chat. To my lovely wife, thank you for the support. To my mom, thank you for the support as well. Just cannot thank everyone enough. So I just wanted to acknowledge that today marks officially the 1-year anniversary of Buha's Block. A lot more to come. We got a rebrand on the way. Eventually, hopefully sooner than later, some merch and memberships. We also have some new people that I'm going to be adding to the team and announcing that soon. So a lot of exciting things to come with the next year, some more meetups, hoping to do a meetup here in the next couple months. So a lot to look forward to, but also a lot to be grateful for, a lot to look back on over the past 365 days with you guys. So I just want to give you all a shout out, give you all a thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm just even more motivated to do bigger and better things and to continue to grow this out. So before we get into the game, I just wanted to give you all your flowers for watching and listening and supporting. Now let's get into the game with all the sappy stuff behind us. Overarching thoughts is like the Lakers are just rolling right now. And I've said that how many games in a row, right? But 7 straight, first time this season they were able to get over that hump. They had won 6 straight 3 separate times. This was the first time they were able to win their 7th. They are firmly in number 2 in the West right now. And again, we've been talking about them as a contender. And like, to me, I just don't see how you can't have the Lakers at the number 4 spot right now in the league hierarchy, and really is the biggest threat to beat OKC and come out of the West and represent the conference in the finals. And tonight, not having Austin, not having Rui, not having Jordan Goodwin, that's with the way the rotation has shook out and developed recently. That's 3 of the Lakers' top 9 players. And to not have those guys who all bring different parts, to bring different facets to the game, I think they just continue to not really miss a beat. And there was a couple moments where, like early second quarter, the Pelicans go on that 17-4 run, and early third quarter they go on another run. But in both instances, LA responded with a run of their own to distance themselves and give themselves a bigger cushion. And I just think we've seen a level of resiliency here with this group over the past month plus, where it doesn't matter what an opponent does. They stay calm, they stay collected, and they gather themselves, and they figure out a way to problem solve and beat their opponent. So tonight, like, New Orleans had been playing better. They're still not a good team. They're the second worst defense in the league. Even going by just the past month, they've been the 4th worst defense in the league. So LA had certain advantages in that sense. But Zion is a monster. As we saw, Lakers had no chance at stopping Zion tonight. And that alone could have theoretically kept the Pelicans in the game, but it didn't. And the Lakers had a couple of monsters on their side in Luka and LeBron. So I think just the Lakers continue to play really good basketball. Finally, the 6 consecutive games of 102 points or fewer get snapped. They allow more than 102 points, but they make up for it by having a blowout win and also reaching 136 points, which, as I mentioned before, was their season high point total. So a lot to take from this game in a positive sense. I thought that the bench came in, Trey Jemison, Vando, Dalton, Shake, they all made their contributions. Trey continues to just be a bowling ball out there and cause chaos and get in people's faces. And like, he just adds a certain level of physicality and toughness. Vando does the same thing, but he also hit a couple threes, had a lob, had some big offensive rebounds. Shake hit a couple threes, and he also had that running, like, left-handed hook shot. Dalton, I thought, hit some big shots, also had a couple of big lob passes. And I think defensively is starting to turn the corner and look, not... He's looked much more, or he's progressed a lot, we'll say. I don't want to bill him into something he's not defensively, but I think there's been some tangible progress there for Dalton, and that's to say nothing of what LeBron and Luka did. So again, I mean, Luka plus 37 is just insane. LeBron reaching 50K. So notable performers tonight. Gonna hit on LeBron and Luka. LeBron hits 50,000 plus career points between the regular season and the playoffs. He had 34 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks. 10 of 18 shooting, 5 of 10 from the 3-point line, and 9 of 9 at the free throw line. Luka, 30 points, 8 rebounds, 15 assists, had 17 points in the first quarter, was his Laker high for a quarter. 9 of 19 shooting, 6 of 13 on 3-pointers. And Jackson Hayes had a season high 19 points, 10 rebounds, 8 of 8 from the floor. And the Lakers improved to 14-1 when Jackson plays 20 or more minutes this season. So perfect from the floor for Jackson. And I thought this was one of his better games. Did struggle with foul trouble a little bit, and that was really the only thing. And like Zion's just a tough matchup, but Jackson got his revenge against his former team. I mentioned like DFS and Gabe provided solid defense. Gabe continues to, I think, be a useful transition defender, a useful help defender, and even a point of attack guy, depending on the matchup. Like I thought he did fairly well against CJ McCollum. DFS is just, we know what DFS is. He's a glue guy. He's a connector. Didn't kind of struggled tonight from the floor, 3 of 10, 2 of 7 on threes. But then I mentioned Vando, 12 points off the bench, 8 rebounds, 3 offensive rebounds, a couple blocks, a steal. It was a plus 27 in his 20 minutes. Shake Milton, 12 points, was a plus 30 in his 19 minutes. And Trey Jemison, 4 points, 5 rebounds. He's the ultimate enforcer for LA. And if anyone gets into any type of skirmish or altercation, Trey is right there with his teammates back, which I think is an important thing. And then again, Dalton had 13 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and a couple of nice lob passes. So just overall, a team win. Of course, LeBron and Luka led the way. And up until like later in the fourth quarter, the Lakers continue to only have 3 guys in double figures. The offense is very concentrated right now, but between LeBron, Luka, and whoever's like the number 3 guy, which tonight was Jackson. But of course, most nights it's going to be Austin or even Rui if he's got it going. So I think a lot, again, positive here. It was a good team win. And stat of the night, I'm going to give you 2. So I've already touched on both of them, but LeBron James is now up to 50,033 career points between the regular season and the playoffs. That does not include his 99 points in play-in games and in-season tournament games that don't count toward his, or in-season tournament championship that don't count toward his actual career total. Then Luka plus 37 is an absurd, and to contrast it to the rest of the starting lineup, I think is really interesting because obviously the starters play a certain amount, especially when the Lakers are shorthanded. No one played more than 26 minutes off the bench. Only 2 guys off the bench even played more than 20 minutes. So they went a little bit more starter heavy until garbage time. And despite that, every other starter had a single digit plus minus or worse. Lakers were plus 5 in DFS's minutes, plus 7 with LeBron, plus 4 with Hayes, minus 8 with Gabe, yet a plus 37 with Luka Doncic. And that is partly skewed because he was in a lineup with Vando and Shake and like those guys got the Luka boost, right? But again, like it's just a monster number. And I think tonight, Luka's, I said it last game, I'm going to continue to say it as long as it looks true in my opinion. Like he continues to look more comfortable offensively and had 5 turnovers, but had those 5 turnovers in the first half and did not have a turnover in the second half. And I thought really cleaned things up, had 9 assists at halftime. So 9 assists, 5 turnovers. So you look at that, 6 assists in the second half, 0 turnovers. And I'm going to touch on Luka with my second takeaway. But first, we have to talk about LeBron James. Takeaway number 1 is LeBron reaches 50K plus points and wins player of the month today for the month of February. And I'll start with the 50K points and then get into player of the month. But 50K, LeBron has been the youngest to every 1,000th point, which is just an absurd fact and just shows like when we're parsing through the GOAT debate or whatever, greatest players ever, like that needs to be mentioned of just like, this is a guy who does not consider himself a scorer, has considered himself a playmaker, a pass first guy. He enjoys creating shots for his teammates more than he does for himself. And we even saw it tonight, the first few minutes of the game, didn't take a shot, was trying to make the extra pass, trying to set up his teammates, and eventually gets the ball swung to him by Luka off of a pick and roll with Jackson. And he's on the weak side, catches it on the left wing, gathers himself, drills the 3, and all of a sudden has reached this 50K club that LeBron invented, but he's the leading scorer all time in the regular season, in the playoffs. I forgot how long ago he became the all-time leading scorer in the playoffs. It was back in 2017. Just think about that. That was 8 years ago that he became the all-time playoff leading scorer. Regular season, it was back in 2023. So a little bit more, like it was a little over 2 years ago. But the all-time playoff score, he passed Jordan back in 2017, and he's only added to that record. Like that might be one that we talked about, the regular season one, and the playoff one's obviously not as big of a number, but between those two, the playoff one's going to be the one that's probably harder to catch, just because you only get so many cracks at the playoffs, and maybe someone will do it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but that's going to be one that's going to be difficult for someone to reach, because you have to go to the finals and win championships like multiple times in a row, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like you got to have a dominant career of just winning and going far in the playoffs like LeBron has had. So that, I mean, just you tip your cap to LeBron. He continued, like, feels like every other game he's setting some type of record or accolade or accomplishment. And I've made that point before, but it never gets old. He should never be taken for granted. And just to have that figure combined in the regular season and playoffs is just, it's absurd. And it's why he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest ever. Then he won Player of the Month. And I thought this was fascinating, because the other two, I think, primary candidates, like I got asked this last week on a mailbag, and I said that LeBron should be in consideration, and I thought he had a chance to win it. But when looking at Shea and Jokic, and I think I mentioned Ant too, like their numbers were right there with LeBron, but LeBron, like they gave him his flowers. They gave him the credit, and he ended up, he ended up winning Player of the Month, despite like Jokic, like Lakers went 10-2 in the month, but Jokic went 10-2 in games he played. LeBron went just 9-2. So he missed the one game and the Lakers won. Then Shea went 11-2. So like those two guys are top two in MVP voting. They both technically had better records in the games they played. Their numbers were comparable, and LeBron still won. And I think he deserved it, because he helped the Lakers right the ship, and he really was the through line during all this. I think he deserves a lot of credit. I think JJ deserves a lot of credit, and I think Austin deserves a lot of credit. And of course, we could go down the line with Rui, DFS, and several guys, but like those are the guys really leading the ship. And I think LeBron, with having AD, then him going down, and really he had already gone down actually to start the month. So they're without AD. Then they do the Luka trade. Then they don't have AD or Luka, because Luka's still out for the first week post trade. Then they eventually get Luka back, but then there's an acclimation process. And then now he's starting to look like the Dallas version of Luka that we're all familiar with. So like throughout that whole time, LeBron has been putting up 30 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, good percentages, like great percentages, really. So his averages here for the month of February were 29.3 points, 10.5 rebounds, 6.9 assists, 1.2 steals, 0.7 blocks on 55.4% shooting, 44.3% on threes, and 73.8% from the line. So did not average as many points as Shea. Shea was at 31. However, he averaged more rebounds than him, more assists than him, and had better shooting percentages. So I think when factoring in the efficiency and just the way that he carried the Lakers this month through adversity, through having stars in and out of the lineup, through changing their identity, the defense that he played, I think that's another part that we have to acknowledge. Like LeBron really deserved this. And again, I think this was a really tough month to win this, and he still won it. And that just shows you the level that he's been at for, I think, going on a couple months now. But he deserved it for this month. And then also a quick shout out to Austin Reeves, who was among the players considered for Western Conference Player of the Month. And again, I mentioned Austin. I think LeBron has gotten a lot of the credit, and deservedly so. I think JJ is starting to get more credit for his coaching and his game planning. But I think Austin deserves a mention as well, with just being there as like an all-star level player for over a month now, month and a half, and being right there is like the number two for a lot of that stretch when AD and Luka were both out, when AD was out, and then right before Luka started to look like himself. So I think a lot of positives for the past month for the Lakers, but now we are in a new month, and so far the new month is going well. They're 2-0. Then takeaway number 2 for me is Luka has solved every riddle, and I'm quoting JJ Redick with what he said post game about Luka, but I mentioned it. So 17 points in the first quarter. He hits 3 straight threes. He starts skipping, and like we've started to see Luka come out of his shell and just look more comfortable in terms of honestly, I think the complaining, like the complaining is part of the Luka package. Like, yes, he could probably do it a little bit less than he does sometimes, but I think that's when he's a very passionate player, and he feeds off of that like confrontation and getting upset about things. So I think in a way like that fuels him and makes him play better. So we've seen that. We've seen the technical in Denver, and he'll be chirping at the refs. But then I think we've also seen the joy side. And JJ's talked about like the killer side and the joy side and sort of the duality of that. But he hits that third three in the right corner and then starts to skip and kind of dance a little bit. And like you start to see him do more things like that. And I think in the beginning, there was clearly an element of him being like shell shocked and him still processing things. And that, as he said after the Dallas game, that's going to continue. It's not an overnight thing where he plays Dallas once and he's just over the situation. But I think especially the last like 2-3 games, really since he played the Clippers, I think he's looked a lot more like himself, and not just in like the performance, although it's 3 straight games with 29 plus for him, but also just the way he's carrying himself, the way his demeanor, his energy, like it just has felt like Luka has been Luka. And that's all that the Lakers can ask for. As I also mentioned, 9 assists, 5 turnovers in the first half, 6 assists, 0 turnovers in the second half. A masterclass in the second half in terms of distribution and taking care of the ball. And even with the 5 turnovers, I still think some of it is timing, misreading when guys are cutting or the ball placement on certain things. And also some of it's like, I almost feel like Luka's so gifted that he could sometimes kind of toy with the ball and try to test himself and like see if he could throw a behind the back pass or see if he can like he'll just jump and try to decide in the air. And I think it's a habit that against certain teams, he definitely has to clean that up. I'm not saying he should be doing that all the time, but I think he did clean that up in the second half. And I also think that he's always out there just like testing things. And I think that's what the regular season is for, is to test and to learn and to grow. And I think we've seen that a lot from Luka here. And as I mentioned, the 4th Laker ever to hit 30 points and 15 assists in a game. And that's a special class to be in for this franchise. That is something that is noteworthy. And then, as I mentioned before, the plus 37 plus minus. And then takeaway number 3, I think, so this one is going to be a defensive one, and it was crushed in the paint. And I think this was the first time we saw some of the limitations of the Lakers' rim protection, or their current version of their rim protection, because they were outscored 74-56 overall in points in the paint. And that was a larger margin before garbage time. After garbage time, that shrunk a little bit, but it was 20 plus for a majority of the game because of Zion. And Zion is an exception. Zion is a freak. Zion is a different kind of problem defensively, especially a night like tonight. He finishes with 37 points, 17 of 23 shooting. He missed 6 shots, did not attempt a 3-pointer. And I would have to assume, I mean, I could pull up his shot chart right now. Looking at it quickly, all 23 of his shots were in the paint. 21 of the 23 were at within the restricted area. So he took 2 shots outside the restricted area. So like he's a different kind of player and an exception, right? However, I still think like we saw that when he was bringing the ball up the floor a lot, and they were getting the ball to him a lot around half court. and getting him ahead of steam and getting him downhill. And he's so crafty that like even you know he's trying to go left, but even when you try to wall off the left side, he's so good at then pretending to go right, spinning backward, and there's just really nothing you can do about it. So I don't know if there's another player that tests your paint defense the way that Zion does, but I think the Lakers have a couple of guys coming up. One, I think the closest thing maybe to Zion, just in terms of style of play and skill set, is Giannis and the pressure that he puts on the rim. And similarly to Zion, he can bring the ball up the floor. They can initiate offense with him above the three-point arc, and he could get downhill very well around screens or just by beating his man off the dribble. So I think Zion, with the Lakers playing the Bucks here a couple times in the next like week and a half, is a guy who's going to, or couple weeks, is a guy who's going to test their rim protection, their paint defense. And then I think Jokic, like I know the Lakers had their game plan. I think Denver is going to make some adjustments. We'll see. Like maybe they can do it a second time, but I think if Jokic is getting the ball a bit more in the post or around the basket, you could see him have similar success to a Giannis or Zion. Though obviously all three are different players, but I think Zion and Giannis, there's some similarities there. But I would just say like I felt like tonight, like Lakers had 5 blocks. I don't know exactly the rim defense off of tonight, but it felt like I will note too, they really missed Rui. I think like this was a matchup where Rui probably would have taken on Zion and absorbed that contact. And this was where like DFS just doesn't have the size and the strength to match up with Zion. And even a guy like Vando, like I think that's where Rui was sorely missed tonight. And otherwise, I mean, Jemison, Len, like they're not really going to be able to, they don't have the foot speed to match up with him. So I thought the Lakers got better in terms of their positioning with the weak side help and whatnot. But New Orleans has also been shooting threes pretty well. And Jordan Hawkins off the bench hit a few. McCollum and Murphy are good shooters, but didn't shoot well tonight. So I think they were also smart about how they kind of spaced the floor and tried to attack the Lakers. But if I've said this before, like even in wins, I'm constantly trying to look at like what could have been better. What could opponents be scouting or trying to take away from this game in a negative way against the Lakers? And I would say allowing, off the top of my head, 74 has to be among I mean, it's certainly among the most they've allowed this year. I don't know if that's the absolute most that they've allowed. I'll quickly look that up as I'm talking, but it is a very high number. And the way that they were outplayed in terms of like the rim battle tonight, ultimately they got to the free throw line, they made their threes, like they won by 20. So I'm not really trying to nitpick here. I just do think like this was the first team that kind of cracked the code a little bit and was able to get to the rim a lot. And once they got there, the Lakers rim protection has been largely good for the last really like month plus with AD, without AD. But tonight, it kind of looked like more what we thought it could look like, with Jackson picking up some fouls, not necessarily like, and just Zion's such a unique player that, again, it might just be a Zion problem, but it is something for me to monitor longer term with Giannis and with Jokic coming back up, like just some of the better bigs who can really test you in the paint. This is not, okay, here we go. Miscellaneous. I'm on NBA.com. Opponent points in the paint. Yeah, 74 is the most. And actually, yeah. 74 is the most. So that was a season high in points in the paint allowed for whatever it's worth. But with all that said, let's get into the Q&A. I see we got some super chats. D'Lo, strongest soldier. Thank you for the super chat. Casual 136 without AR and Rui, spooky times. Like, yeah, and this is the point I've been trying to make with the Lakers offense is like, I mean, so tonight they don't have their third and fourth leading scorers, their third and fourth options, but like they are just scratching the surface of what they can do on the offensive end. And they've been the best defense in the league for 7 straight weeks. So they've still been a borderline top 10 offense. They've been the 11th best offense. I don't know what they have been now after tonight's game. I assume that's actually going to be maybe like the 8th or ninth best offense. So top 10 on both sides of the ball. And the offensive end, they're still leaving so much on the table in terms of what they could do. And it felt like they were due for, like they have been overdue for a big shooting performance tonight. They end up making 19 threes, which is really good. The second most they made in a game this season, attempted 52. So they shot just under 37% on threes. But yes, to your point, like spooky times, because this offense, I think, is only going to get better throughout the course of the rest of the regular season. And even if there is some defensive slippage, which I think feels inevitable based on the caliber of opponent they're about to be playing for basically a month, if they can maintain a top 10 or top 5 defense, I think they're going to be right there again with Cleveland, Boston, and OKC in terms of best teams in the league and best teams with a shot to win a championship. Rolla, thank you for the super chat. Thanks to Dan Hurley for turning down the Lakers coaching job. Yeah, I wonder what this would have looked like. Like I think Dan Hurley is a really, really good coach. I think he's one of the best coaches in America. However, I think some of the stuff we've seen with like the media tour he went on after that whole situation, and even some of the comments and stuff that's happened this season with UConn, I wonder if the ego was going to be too big. And I look at a guy actually who coached LeBron and David Blatt, who came in as one of the most decorated European coaches in the league at the time. And if you're just looking like globally, like on paper, one of the best coaches gets the Cleveland job and just comes in with, this is all secondhand stuff, but I've heard a lot of it of just coming in with a giant ego and thinking he knew everything, and not being open to constructive criticism or feedback, or just changing his style. And obviously we saw what happened after they fired him. Ty Lue gets promoted and they go on to win the championship. So I think that there might have been some similarities there where Hurley coming in with a big ego might have just not worked with the locker room, would not have probably worked with LeBron. And like, I think just almost I think that there's an element with like people like to make their claims about JJ and his personality and whatnot. But I do think there's a level of curiosity and humility with JJ that I don't know if a guy like Dan Hurley would have had. And I think that curiosity and humility have been two key ingredients in the Lakers adapting their identity so many times throughout the course of the season, and successfully adapting their identity. And really over the past like month, just think about how many identities they've had, where you have what they look like against the Knicks, then you have that in-between period, then you have the early Luka stage, then like how they're looking now. So like he's really adapted and coached, I think, more to the team he's had than the team he's wanted or wants. And I think I have some questions as to like how the Dan Hurley situation would have played out. I have some skepticism with it. Angelco Azorad Rezo, thank you for the super chat. Yo, congrats on 1 year of Buha's block. Let's go. Which players will fill the rest of the roster? I think it's going to be Jordan Goodwin replacing Cam Reddish. And then I think depending on how the next 6 or so weeks go, there will be a serious conversation about Trey Jemison potentially replacing Alex Len. But for now, those seem to be really the only two guys I think Christian Koloko should. I've been singing the praises of Koloko, but it seems like they're viewing him more as a development player, which I get. I think Jemison has played well, and if they I think he's better than Alex Len. So if they make that swap, I think that makes the roster better. RGN Cal 4, thank you for the super chat. Wait till Rui and Reeves get back. Well-oiled machine. Yeah, I mean, again, that's the Lakers' third and fourth best offensive players. Their third best ball handler, and a guy who gives you that second ball handler in any unit with LeBron and Luka, and even is capable of running his own unit. And then Rui with the spacing, the cutting, and the physicality defensively, like the way that he's been defending recently, especially against bigs. Like he's kind of, I think a night like tonight, again, he would have been guarding Zion, and we would have seen a bit more success. I'm not saying he would have stopped him. I think Zion still probably gets 30, but it's probably a tougher 30. And I think that's a testament to Rui's development on the defensive side. Transformers love, yo, can you dunk? Roll out. I have not tried in a while. I tore my Achilles at the end of 2023, so I've only played basketball a couple times since then. I've not tried since then, but maybe I will try for you in this super chat. They see me trolling. They can't win. Thank you for the super chat. Nico deserves a statue. Yeah, I mean, I've even touched on like, there's going to be a 30 for 30 on this Dallas season and really the past 2 months and how wrong things have gone for them. Luka gets injured. Derek Lively gets injured. The Luka trade. Gafford gets injured. AD gets injured or re-aggravates his injury. Then now Kyrie being out for the season. Like Dallas might potentially hang around in the play-in mix. I think they're probably going to drop out. Shams today on ESPN on the Pat McAfee show said that there's a chance that AD and Clutch just decide not to play the rest of the season and to prioritize his health rather than trying to rush a comeback and for a group that's probably not going to go anywhere this season. So Dallas preaching the short-term vision and that success and whatnot, like it has aged terribly. And now they turned the Lakers into a juggernaut. And the Lakers might have gotten there anyway, but I think the ceiling is just clearly higher with Luka compared to AD and Max, especially with AD clearly still going through this injury. And like he was injured at the time, he's still injured. So basically comparing like Max Christie versus Luka, you obviously do that trade. So yeah, I mean, Nico, he's going to get a statue in LA, but he's going to, yeah. I don't think he could show his face in public anymore. Shibugan, thank you for the super chat. Congrats on 1 year, Jovan. Great achievement. Hope to see many more. Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope to see it too. I hope to do this for as long as I possibly can. And again, continue to just grow out the late night gang, grow out the channel and do bigger things with the guests and the graphics and the quality and maybe, have a studio or set one day, like, dedicated. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And you've been one of the day ones, one of the people super chatting from the beginning. So I appreciate you. Alexander White, thank you for the super chat. Much love from Portland. Been here since episode 1. That is another day one. Thank you, Alexander. I appreciate that. Shout out to Portland. Shout out to the Nike employee store. Shout out to some great coffee, beer, and burgers. Appreciate you supporting. Thank you. Wreck Your World. Thank you for the super chat. If we beat Boston again, can we put the haters to bed? I think there's going to still be haters because I've done some more national shows and interviews lately, and it feels like people are still doubting the Lakers. So maybe a Boston win will quell some of the concerns, but I think people just don't buy the defense and LeBron and whatever and JJ. Like I don't know what it is, but yeah, I mean, they'll see in May. Brian, thank you for the super chat. Jackson is hooping. Hope he's doing this in the playoffs. Yeah, Jackson, like he had 19 points all in the first half. Didn't end up scoring in the second half. I thought New Orleans was far more attentive to him in the second half because a lot of his actions were off of just simple lobs or dump offs or he had a couple putbacks, but Jackson has been really, really good. And I think he's exceeded expectations for that starting spot. I think he has grown, in my opinion, into one of the better backup centers in the league. And that was, we saw some kernels of it toward the end of last season. Like I thought once the final like 2 months of the season, as the Lakers made their push, Jackson was awesome. Then come playoff time, the Denver matchup was a tough one for him. Darvin basically benched him and went 80 plus small ball. And we saw Jackson like 2-3 times in that series for a little bit, but moving forward, I mean, he's obviously going to be the starting center. I think that he's going to be in that like 18/20 to 26 minute range. That seems to be the range that JJ is most comfortable with him in. I don't know how that's going to change in the playoffs yet, but I think Jackson has been actualizing his potential. Like this is a guy who's a former lottery pick, is still 24 now. Like he's still not fully developed, and we've seen like offensively, you really just want him dunking and laying the ball in terms of like finishing, but he is an improving and developing short role playmaker. I've talked about that a lot over the past year in terms of just his ability to read defenses. And like, I think people have a certain perception of him. And I think he shows that like, no, he can actually make some plays there. And then defensively, I think he's shown a lot of progress, and both as a defensive rebounder and a rim protector. So I think there are some limitations there, obviously with the, you don't really want him taking shots outside of around the rim. And then I think there's some post defense concerns where Lakers will often go with Rui or DFS or LeBron or something like that. However, I think that there's kind of an upside where you put him as the low man or as a weak side defender, and you really leverage his size and speed and athleticism. So even that is like, it is a limitation, and it changes the way the Lakers have to defend teams. But there's also an upside there where I think he makes them, he's almost like a giant wing on the other side of the floor, which I think could be an advantage. So yeah, I mean, I mentioned it when he plays 20 plus minutes, they're now 14-1, I want to say. So like, it's hard to disagree with that result. Chase, thank you for the super chat. Looking ahead, is Zion a possible Braun replacement? So before I get aggregated, please don't aggregate me. I think it, like, theoretically, yes. And the reason I would say is Zion more so than maybe some other stars is because it seems like New Orleans has been at their wits' end with him, and already was sort of secretly / not so secretly trying to shop him at the 2024 deadline and just wasn't able to find. I think they wanted a big haul for him, and teams were a bit skittish about that. So I think like if you're looking at stars that could be available and could also be available for like non-astronomical prices, I think Zion checks the box. Now there is a couple of significant concerns with Zion, right? So you got the injury history, which is extensive, and I don't think he's necessarily like an injury prone player, but there is, with the size and the weight and the playing style, I think it does lend itself to injury risk. Injury prone, I don't love that term, but you know, he might qualify, I guess, technically. And then so I think that's the biggest thing, but I think the second thing is the defensive end of, I mentioned earlier in the show that New Orleans is the second worst defense in the league. They have been the fourth worst defense over the past month. And I'm by no means putting that all on Zion. And he's not even been available, obviously, for that entire stretch. But I think there is a limitation to what your defense looks like with Zion. He is not a center. He's not a rim protector, but he's also not the most it's weird because he's I've talked about it with like Rui and Dalton, where those guys are super athletic offensively, but it doesn't always translate defensively. And I think there's an element of that with Zion, but I feel like you have to have two really good front court defenders around him, and probably like a big and a wing defender, to create like a championship level defense with him in the front court. And maybe he loses some weight or look, like I feel like JJ's been making some subpar defenders look pretty good. So maybe under JJ, Zion could look better defensively, but I think like he might be available at some point within the next couple of years for the Lakers or another team. But I think the injury risk and the defense, to me, are two major concerns that if they can't get another star and he's like the best, number two guy that they could get, they could probably do it. But there's certainly some other players that if they could get them, I would prefer to have, because of better defense, less of an injury risk, and really more of like a sample size. With Zion, like we've seen it again, we've kind of seen it in flashes with him. And when he's healthy, he's amazing. Like he looks like a top 10 guy when he's healthy, frankly, but he's just rarely healthy for that long. And again, I think the defensive side is a big concern. Alex and Merling, thank you for the super chat. Luka dropping 15 assists to go with 30 points is nuts. Yeah. And again, it didn't feel like it was like a crazy Luka game or like unsustainable. Like it felt like it came in the flow of the offense. And I do think partly Luka and LeBron having to score as much as they did and control the ball as much as they did was partly because no Austin, no Rui. That's those are more finishers and creators out there. Another ball handler in Austin. That like if those guys are healthy, I think Luka and LeBron probably have to do less offensively tonight. But with Luka, it didn't feel like he just plays at his own pace. I've said that 1,000 times already in the past month, and like the way he decelerates, the way he gets defenders on his hip, the way that he manipulates the defense. He knows where his other 4 teammates are on all, on the floor at all points. And he just does such a good job of driving one way, kicking back to the same side corner, driving one way, looking toward the same side corner, then firing a pass to the weak side corner, finding a cutter who the defense isn't suspecting, hitting Jackson for lobs, or his trademark over the head, over the shoulder, behind the back, no look pass to a teammate behind him. Like he's absurd. And I think the one thing that I think has been the biggest benefit, there's 2 with Luka. Well, there's 3. I can keep going. I think like 1, he can make basically any pass at that size and with his court vision. He can make any pass from any point of the floor. 2, he's constantly drawing 2 to the ball. And remember, JJ had that quote that I didn't fully agree with earlier in the season. It was the first Clippers game at Intuit where he said the Lakers don't have guys who draw 2 to the ball. That was the whole like margins and like they don't have a big margin for error with their group. But he said they don't have guys who draw 2 to the ball, which I disagreed with because LeBron and AD would get double teamed and draw 2 to the ball. So they don't do it to the level that Luka does it. But I disagreed with that assessment of the offense. But Luka is constantly drawing 2 to the ball, even upwards toward like half court, which just unlocks 4v3 with a lot of space. But then the third thing is he's constantly penetrating. And I think we saw it. And I thought LeBron was much better with the second half shift with this. But that stretch when New Orleans outscored them 17-4 early in the second quarter was LeBron with Jemison and Shake and Dalton, and it might have been Vando or DFS. And it was just a lot of horseshoe basketball of pinging the ball around the perimeter. No one was getting downhill, and the offense really stagnated. And there was a couple times they got like a transition bucket, or they'd get a lob to Jackson. Outside of that, the offense really struggled during that stretch, and that allowed New Orleans to get out in transition and build some momentum and make that run. But you saw the second Luka comes back in, all of a sudden he's getting downhill, he's getting to the free throw line, he's either drawing a foul, taking that step in, hitting the lob pass or the weak side pass, or kicking the ball back out, and Lakers now have an advantage with a rotating, scrambling defense. So I just think that his ability to get downhill and put pressure on a defense, you see the defenses start to freak out because they know that they can't quite figure out his timing, and then they know he could either shoot it or create for a teammate, and like that just causes defenses to collapse and overthink things. So I think Luka. Again, Luka's. I could talk about Luka all day. He's been a joy to watch. Braden, thank you for the super chat. Brate, first Lakers duo with 30 points and 5 threes on Real Man. Love from Australia. Been here since the first few streams. I appreciate that, Brate. Love to Australia. Thank you for the support. And the Lakers have the best duo in the league. I don't think that's debatable. Michael D, thank you for the super chat. Where my day one's at. Congrats on 1 year. I actually started following the Lakers because of you. A good thing I did, since the Mavs gave away my guy. By the way, he's looking more comfortable. League is cooked. Thank you, Michael D. I enjoy the profile picture, and I enjoy you supporting. And I made you a Laker fan. That's awesome to hear. And yeah, the league might be in trouble here. Steve Stevenson, thank you for the super chat. Am I crazy, or could we get better offensively? You are not crazy. I think the Lakers could be the best offense in the league and like easily top 5, but with the upside to be number 1. Right now, as I mentioned, this 6-7 week stretch, they've been around the top 10. So, and with Luka, similar ranking. So I think top 5, top 3, top 1. all within the realm of possibility. BLC, thank you for the super chat. JJ doing a very good job getting everyone ready to play. Yeah, JJ. So tomorrow I'm doing a new episode, Buha's Block. It is the 60 game mark, which means it is a new state of the Lakers, 10 storylines at the 60 game mark. And one of the storylines is going to be JJ Redick and just the job that he has done from a game plan perspective, from getting this group to buy in. And I just think he deserves a lot of credit and really should be in the coach of the year race. I think Kenny Atkinson's probably going to win it because Cleveland essentially returned the same group pre DeAndre Hunter trade and is about to win like 65 plus games. So I get why Kenny Atkinson's probably going to win coach of the year, but I think JJ, you could argue him as high as number 2 and certainly in the number 3 conversation. So I think JJ has worked his way up into that conversation. Darian, thank you for super chat. Hi, Jovan. Would you say AR has the best contract in the NBA currently? Also, if you could choose, what seed would you have the Lakers end in ideally? I would really have to comb through it to be totally honest, but I think he's in the conversation for best contract in the NBA. I make the distinction of best contract among non-rookie contract players because there are several rookie, Wemby's out right now, but you could make a case Wemby with how much he's making is the best contract in the league, compared to his production. So I would, but Austin's certainly in that conversation. And that's why the Lakers have not wanted to trade Austin. And they've had such a high bar for trading Austin. It's just been the production to cost, ratio there is insane. So he's certainly in the conversation for best contract in the NBA, but I don't know off the top of my head. I would have to go through every, because there's even some guys who are I'm trying to think there are some stars who are making 30 something million, and you could say they're maybe on a 20 million discount to their production. So I think it's all degrees of how you view it. But I would say if you said Austin was the best non-rookie contract in the league, I wouldn't fight you on it. And you could make that case. But again, I'd have to really comb through it. Maybe that's a mailbag question at some point. And if you could choose what seed would you have the Lakers end in ideally, I would pick the number 2 seed. Of course, if you're the Lakers, pick the number 1 seed. But at this point, there's just such a big gap between them and OKC. OKC has 10 fewer losses, so I just don't see them catching OKC. But right now, it's looking like they're going to be between the 2 and the 5 seed. And really, with the way they're playing, probably 2 and 4, maybe 2 or 3. And I say just be the 2 seed, play the cards that you're dealt, have home court, have the easier matchup and home court in round 1, have home court in round 2 against the 3 or the 6, and also position yourself on the opposite side of the OKC side. And maybe they suffer an injury, maybe they lose to Denver or someone else in round 2. Maybe you don't even end up playing them. But even if you do, I think you have a little bit of a runway there of a couple series under your belt. I like to, when we talk about these hypotheticals, I like to put myself in the psyche of the team and the context. So if we just walk this through here, if we're saying Lakers Thunder conference finals, that means the Lakers have beaten 2 other good teams in the West to get to the conference finals. That means the Lakers are playing really good basketball and have likely kept this current play up through the rest of the regular season into the playoffs and are probably even playing at a higher level. So if you think about that, then I think you are meeting OKC at the pinnacle, and it's just a battle of which stars can be better, which role players can make more shots, make more defensive plays, and then the coaching battle between Dagnall and Redick. So I would say I in general don't believe in ducking matchups. I also don't believe in trying to tempt or disrespect the basketball gods or trying to manipulate your seeding. So I say be the best seed possible, get home court for as long as you can. Because the other thing is if you get the 2 seed, right, not only are you on the opposite side of OKC, but if OKC loses, let's say Denver's number 4 and Denver wins and they beat OKC in round 2, now you're playing Denver with home court. Whereas if you're the 4 or the 5, you're playing OKC in round 2. And if you beat them and now you're in the conference finals, you are playing a team likely the 2 or 3 seed that has home court above you. So I say get the 2 seed, get the easier path theoretically, and home court. Because home court, it might not matter as much as it used to, but I still think it matters. And you would rather have home court in a series than not. So I would say go get the 2 seed and then see where things go from there. Britton, thank you for the super chat. If we have the biannual exception in the summer option on DeAnthony Melton, low contract coming off injury, could fill the Christie role. Also, congrats on 1 year, brother. Thank you. Thank you, Britton. I appreciate it. You've also been someone who has been around for a while. Excuse me. I wonder if Melton could even be a minimum player, depending on is he, because he signed, he might still be, I forgot, did he get bought out? Let me look at his contract quickly. Oh no, it was a 1 year. Yeah, it was a 1 year deal. Okay, so he's an unrestricted free agent. Yeah, I mean, I just like to double check the contract just to make sure I'm not saying someone's going to be a free agent if they're not. I wonder if he's just a minimum guy based on the injury, but if you have to go up to BAE, yeah, I really like Melton. He's also a USC guy, so I have some bias there, but yeah, I like Melton. And like, I mean, when healthy, like pre-injury, he was good. He was a big part of Golden State's success pre-Schroeder trade and pre-injury. So I think he's a winner. BLC, thank you for the super chat. I think we made a good decision to sign JJ versus Dan H. Yes, I agree. And for the record, I was on the JJ side the whole time, but yeah, they I think they avoided a potential, I don't want to say disaster, but it might have not gone well. Efren, thank you for the super chat. Lakers, this run is insane. Is it possible AD was holding LeBron back a little? Maybe Luka's arrival caused this. JJ for coach of the year. Shout out the late night gang. I don't think AD was holding the Lakers back a little bit. I think that AD certainly had some tendencies that, like, I do think he played into some of the Lakers' bad habits. Like, he famously was not great. Like the weakest point of his game defensively was transition defense, because he did not always get back in transition and would sometimes jog, or if he was falling, like I know it kind of sounds ridiculous, but when he's falling, he's on the floor for a little bit. And those few seconds are the difference between getting back and protecting the rim, getting a defensive rebound and not. And that's why sometimes you'd see, similar to LeBron, like he would fall, not get back, the Lakers somehow get a stop, and then all of a sudden he's out in transition and LeBron can hit him, or someone can hit him for like an easy dunk or layup or something. But there were certainly times where he did not get back. And I even think back to the Denver series, or a couple of them, since they played twice, that Jokic would beat him down the floor. And it's like, on paper, Jokic should not be better conditioned. And I know the altitude and that's certainly a factor, but like AD is more athletic, more explosive, quicker, all that stuff. Like, he should not be getting beat down the floor by Jokic. So I think there were certain habits that like played into some of the Lakers' weaknesses, but for the first 2 months of the season, he was their best player. The on-off was decidedly in his favor compared to LeBron's favor. So I don't want to rewrite the history on AD. I think this says more about LeBron and the level he's been playing at. I think it says more about JJ and the way he's been coaching. I think it says more about Austin and his development. And then ultimately, I also think it says more about Luka, and just Luka's a better player than AD. And I think he gives the Lakers a higher ceiling. So that's no shade at AD. That does not discount what AD accomplished in LA. That does not discount the player that AD is. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's going to have his jersey retired by the Lakers. So I don't want to rewrite the AD history, but I understand the question. Luka's arrival, I think, might have added some kerosene to this whole situation. It just amplified it. But I think the Lakers were that's another thing. Like, the Lakers were playing well before the Luka trade. So again, Luka just gave them a better player and a better future and a better present. So, and then JJ Coach of the Year, I think he should be in the mix. And shout out the late night gang. Ahmed Braun, thank you for the super chat. That second unit misses AR a lot. They just blitz Braun without AR out there. Yes, I agree with both of those statements. I also think LeBron and there's been a lot of attention about LeBron and his plus minus and his net rating. And I know ESPN just wrote about this where like LeBron has been in some weird lineups this season where it'll be LeBron with like four or three defensive minded guys and Dalton. And it's like, those are the tools he has to work with offensively. And that's just not a lot to work with. And I think he has made it work, but there have been some ugly stretches. Like he was out there obviously tonight, that early second quarter stretch where New Orleans goes on the 17-4 run. And there's been stretches like that to open, to close first quarters or to open second quarters because LeBron is just out there with guys who can't really do much offensively, guys who can't, even a guy like Gabe, I think he's been better recently in terms of his secondary ball handling and initiating and stuff. But there was stretches early in the season, obviously, where he didn't shoot the ball well. He wasn't as confident. And to your point about Austin, I think staggering it and keeping him in those lineups, I think will go a long way. But I still think we do get those like weird LeBron lineups that ultimately affect his plus minus, in my opinion. And part of it is you can just throw everything at him, and then it becomes like, can Vando or Jemison or Goodwin or whoever like make plays and score? And sometimes they can, but that's not something you want to necessarily rely on every night, and especially in like the playoffs. So I think it's more of a regular season thing. I think playoff time, like you are going to see LeBron, Luka, AR all staggered, where like at least two are on the floor at all times, but maybe a little bit less time with all three until, starting and closing. Brandon Robinson, thank you for the super chat. Shout out to the Late Night Gang and happy 1 year. I love the honest perspective you provide and can't wait for the content to come with this great team. By the way, next time you're in Denver, please do a meetup. That's good to know. I will be in Denver for the road trip. Unfortunately, it is second night of a back-to-back, but maybe I could do a meetup at the game. And I apologize. I had like 2 or 3 people hit me up tonight to meet up, and I unfortunately was not there. But for everyone, please hit me up on IG at Jovan Buha if you are going to be at a game at home or on the road, and hopefully I can meet up with you guys. Usually the best time for me is halftime. Pre-game is a little crazy, but would love to meet up with all of you. And then also next time I do a meetup, potentially before the end of the regular season, if not at some point between now and like May, I would like to do at least one meetup and, see as many of you as possible. Fang Charlie, shout out to you for being a mod. Congrats on 1 year for Buha's Blockman. Been great being a mod and having the Late Night Gang with y'all. It's hella fun. PS, still waiting on your email, bro. That's LFG. I know. I'm sorry. I've not been as plugged in on my email and stuff lately, but I appreciate you, and I do owe you an email, but we will figure out that interview very soon. And thank you again. Sean, thank you for the super chat. Shake Milton, heard your plus minus comments about him and put up a plus 30 tonight. Yeah, shout out to Shake, man. I mean, I gave him a shout out earlier, but he single-handedly rebuilt his plus minus in one game. And I primarily credit Luka, to be completely honest, but Shake did hit a couple of threes in that, I forgot, late second quarter, and might have been, but overall 12 points. I thought this was one of his better games. He really made an impact. It wasn't just garbage time. Shake played well tonight. And Darren, FRM985, yo, AR sat tonight again, guessing he's just being preserved for this tough stretch coming up. Respect to Nola, but we could have afforded no AR tonight. I think so. I mean, he was questionable and then got downgraded and ruled out. I haven't seen all the post-game comments, so I don't know if there's an update yet on Austin, but I would assume he's probably questionable again going into the New York game, and then it comes down to just how, maybe game time decision, something like that. But they're going to need him back. At the same time, the Lakers are building a little bit of a cushion right now in the standings, and the last thing you want to do, like I just said the 2 seed is important. I do think it is important. But at the same time, Austin being healthy and available is important. Austin is a guy who plays through a lot of stuff. Like he is constantly banged up, nicked up, and is a warrior and plays through that stuff. So like, I think this little bit of a break, whether it's 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, whatever it is, I think it's good for him to just rest and recover a little bit and get ready for that push, because they're going to need him. They're going to need the best version of him. And he's a guy that again, I think tries to play through everything. So it's just like I think he deserves a little bit of a break here. And you want to try and get the 2 seed at the same time. Having the 2 seed and not having a healthy roster versus being the 4 seed and having a healthy roster, I think for the Lakers, you take the latter. I think you take the lower seed with the healthier players, especially toward the top of your roster. I think that's a no-brainer. So they got to find that balance. But I think with Austin, like, they will make the right call, and he'll be back when he's ready. Hail Ford, Jovan, thank you for the super chat. If the Lakers small ball continues its success, I think they should take a chance and trade for Zion in the offseason. Here we go. We're going into the Zion content. His contract, I have to pull it up here. Just as a heads up, I'm going to go about 5 to 10 more minutes. He is making 36.7 this season, then 39.4, 42.2, 44.9. He's got 3 more years after this one. So 39 point, I mean, what's interesting is 39.5, you could get there with the expirings of Rui, Gabe, and Kleba. But Rui's obviously a big part of this team, so that would be a big loss. From a salary perspective, it is hard for the Lakers to get there, because I don't think they're going to want to give up Austin, and like he's got 1 more year left before he opts out. So I'm looking at the Lakers cap for next season. They're not trading LeBron. They're not trading Luka. Then you get to Rui, DFS, Austin, Vando, Gabe, Kleba. So I assume New Orleans would want Austin, and that's a conversation that the Lakers, like, I think you have to at least have the conversation, but I don't think Austin's going to be making less than $14 million. I just don't think they're going to want to give him up. But then at the same time, it's like, I don't know if Rui, Gabe, and Kleba is like getting it done, because you only have 1 pick, a couple swaps, a couple seconds. Yeah, I think it just depends like what the ultimate asking price is for New Orleans and how much they're willing to kind of take the hit on the Zion asset. But yeah, because I assume they if they're only getting 1 pick, I'm going to assume they're going to demand like Austin and Dalton in that trade. But I don't know. I think he might be making a little bit too much money for it. We'll see. You follow up with Rui, Gabe, Kleba, 20, 31 first and swaps for Zion. They're getting expiring money, so that they're just getting out of the Zion business and starting the rebuild. They're getting a first round pick, although it's probably not a valuable first round pick, because Lakers should be good in 2031 because they'll have Zion and Luka. And then swaps, again, not very valuable because they're going to have Zion and Luka. But I assume you maybe have to throw in Dalton. Like maybe that's, I don't know. I'm not, I think it just comes down to what New Orleans wants. And then look, you're reading my mind here. You said throw in Dalton if necessary. Okay. Excuse me. Throat's starting to act up a bit. I'm gonna go about 5 more minutes, but I'm in the chat here. So if you guys have any questions that I didn't see earlier, drop them down below right now so I can get to them. Puppy Chow 302 says, "Who wants LeBron James in the finals? Celtics don't want this smoke." The thing is, like, and this is the other element to LeBron and Luka, is like, we've seen like both of these guys are big time playoff performers. Like, I think James Harden is the easy player on like the opposite end of the spectrum who has like historically struggled in the playoffs and his numbers have all gone down. But like LeBron and Luka for this era have been two of the better playoff performers. Their numbers are insane in the playoffs. They raise their game to a different level. So just thinking about, like, I almost feel like you have to beat the Lakers in the first or second round, because if you get to the conference finals and LeBron has another shot to get to the finals and win his fifth ring, and Luka has another shot to get to the finals, like, I just think those two guys are going to be so hard to stop. And if they get to the finals, especially if it's against the Celtics, who LeBron has hated for 20 years, and Luka has obviously the rematch and revenge element to losing to them in 2024, that's just going to be like, that is another element to me that is, you can't really quantify that, but you can look at their numbers and look at two guys who have both been better in the playoffs than the regular season. They have elevated teams that have not been as good on paper as their opponents. And how many times did LeBron get to the finals, sweeping teams, beating teams in 5 games with lesser rosters on paper? And then same with Luka, 2022, 2024. And even when he lost to the Clippers in 2020 and 2021, he was a beast in those 2 series. It was not because of Luka that they lost. So yeah, man, I don't think anybody wants to smoke from those two in particular. Ryan Mitchell, thank you for the super chat. Can you tell Braun to take the minutes next, the mid next season from Miles? I don't think he would listen to me, to be honest, but I could try to relay it. Find a way. Breitner says 5 more minutes equals 20 more minutes. This time, maybe not, because my throat is starting to catch up. Mr. Messenger says, merch idea, only going to go for an hour tonight. That's actually going to be, I would love to know. So, I mean, now that I got you guys here, like, we'd love to know what you would like to see from a merch perspective. I am working on a redesign of the Buha's Block logo. So I think ideally that is something that I'm trying to design it with potential merch in mind. So it would be something people would want to buy, people would want to rock. But there's that. There's obviously the yo-yo, and I have to figure out how many O's I put. I don't know if people would want the Jovan Buha intro, but that could be an option as well. Then there's Late Night Gang. I think 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes, something like that would be, or only going to go for an hour tonight. So something along those lines would I think kind of be funny. So I was thinking maybe like t-shirt. I want to like do stuff that I would actually wear, and I'm a big t-shirt and hoodie guy. So I think those are 2 things I definitely want to do, but stickers, maybe hats. I don't sweatpants, like other stuff. Would love to hear what you guys think. Temperature says, congrats on 1 year, Jovan. Would love to meet you whenever you're in Australia. Let's make that happen. I'm down to, next time I travel, which will hopefully be this summer, I will post where I'm at or the general area, maybe not specifically where I'm at, and we could do some meetups. Jay says, Jovan going to have that super raspy yo-yo intro next game. Yes, and actually tomorrow, because I'm doing an episode tomorrow. Okay, we see the Buha tees, Late Night Gang, each $1. Jay, what's the longest yo-yo you can do? I don't know. They've been progressively getting longer, and I'm trying to reel it back a little bit because I don't want to do like a 20-second yo-yo, but probably 20, 25 seconds. Fang Charlie says we need merch to be able to be bought here and overseas. I will make that happen. Where's the balance? You need to start your show after Sliwa. I typically do, but tonight I wasn't at the game, so I started earlier. Kane Carter, thoughts on AD potentially being on the move again? Is that something that's being rumored or reported, or is that just you just asking that? Because I think he's going to stay there and get the max extension that he wants. Britton asked about Alex Len being a priority. I think it was just honestly Indiana was about to sign him, and there was like a shiny new toy element to it. I think Biyombo had just, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Biyombo had just signed a 10-day before Len. I could be wrong on that. I mean, I guess that's what Google's for. Let's see. Alex Len signed with the Lakers on February 11th. Bismack signed his 10-day with the Spurs he signed his second 10-day on the 21st. So that would indicate that, I don't know. It's not popping up for me right now. February 9th. So Biyombo was signed 2 days before Len. So they just missed out. I would have preferred him too. Oida Boy says Buha Block brand BBB. Mint Millions. What's your name mean? My name actually is a version of John in Serbian. So I guess whatever John means. Art of War asks if I think Reeves has reached his ceiling. No. I think like he is a little bit older than you would think based on only being in his fourth season. He's 26, but I still think he's got another year or two to really hit his peak. Nico Harrison's burner. Jovan, would you consider making a community on X or membership program? I don't know if you mean in membership program on X or on YouTube. I am considering making a membership program on YouTube. So that would be nice to create a community and a place everyone can talk when I'm not live and I can engage with people. So I am looking into doing that. Art of War asks when I'm going to collab with Sliwa soon. It's been a crazy. I guess I've done his show a couple times. He was last on my show in December, so we are overdue. Jay, we rescind the Len trade? You could just waive him. J Note says he sat by the PR seats too. Jovan next time though. Yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't there, but Jay says Jovan sounds way cooler than John. Yeah, fun fact, my name was almost Zoran. And that would have been, that's what it came down to. Jovan versus Zoran. Ethan Perez, Jovan, what's the merch idea? I'm just curious what you guys would be interested in, because obviously, it's going to take time and effort and financial resources to create the merch, and it's something I do want to do. I just want to make sure it's something that like people like. I'll probably do mock-ups and like post it on the community posts and maybe do some polls and like have you guys vote on it. I just want to love to know what you guys would be interested in. Tyreek says definitely need some more emotes in here. Yeah, so I think that will be part of the membership as well. Nico Arson's burner asks, how much do you think we should spend on a starting center? We see what Braun and Luka could do with a minimum lob threat. The truth is there's not a lot of great centers available in this free agent class, and the Lakers might only have upwards of $5.7 million with the taxpayer MLE. Maybe the non-taxpayer if LeBron takes a pay cut, but I think it would have to be for a specific player. So it's probably the best you could do with that 5.7. Ken Carter, what's a city you love to visit that you wouldn't have gone to if you weren't a beat reporter / writer? Toronto, easily. It was a city I'd wanted to go to. It's right next to New York, so almost any chance I'm going there, like I'm probably going to New York. But I would say Toronto. I would say Portland too. I like Portland. otherwise, like, Miami, I think I was eventually going to go. New Orleans, like some of the other cities I really like. I think I would have eventually gone in like a bachelor party or some other type of context. But I would say Toronto and Portland are two that yeah. L.A. What up? Jovan, is Rob approachable at the games for reporters? Yeah. To talk to, not in terms of getting him on the record necessarily. I think it just depends on when you're asking, what you're asking. But to talk to, say hi. Yeah, he is. This is the one here. What a boy. Buha's Block branded all-in-one shampoo and conditioner. So not that, because I don't believe in all-in-one shampoo and conditioner. No offense to anyone who uses it, but just I would not do that. However, I have considered creating a hair product because I think I know enough about hair ingredients to do that. Kevin Cambridge asks, I do have a Letterboxd account. I don't really use it. I would like to start to use it, and that would be then maybe I'll start to use it a little bit and then share it. Art of War, favorite fast food place. It's between Shake Shack and Chipotle, depending on if you consider Chipotle fast food. It has gone downhill. I think the quality's gotten worse. I think the portions have gotten worse. They're apparently now like measuring the food, but yeah, I love Shake Shack. I love In-N-Out too. My son loves In-N-Out more than Shake Shack, so I typically try not to eat fast food as much as I can, although on the road. But like Shake Shack, I have often I connect through the Salt Lake City airport, so I have it there a lot. And then my son, we eat a lot of In-N-Out when I'm with him. Okay, I'm gonna. Well, Ken Carter says, thought you'd love Toronto given the OVO connection. That is partly why I was interested in going to Toronto. I like, there's a difference between liking a place and like actually going there. I don't know when I would have eventually gone there. Maybe I would have eventually, but being able to go through covering the NBA has been nice. Then another one, or wait, there was one about my favorite young player. Oh, Nico Harrison's burner, who's some of the favorite young and up and coming players in the league. I mean, Wemby. Like I'm gonna be a little cliche. Like I like Şengün a lot, Mobley, Cade. I said it at the time. I voted Cade for All-Star starter along with Mitchell, and I thought that aged well. Detroit's one of the hottest teams in the league. Cade's having a monster season, so I would say those four stand out. There's like I really like Kamara. I don't want to just pick stars, so if you want me to pick, like I think Tamani Kamara in Portland is like, I think he's going to be like the next Trevor Ariza, Danny Green type KCP of like I don't know if it's going to happen in Portland. I think he might have to move teams, but I think he can be that caliber of like 3-and-D quality starter or high level bench guy who like is a closing lock on like the right team. Tyreek asked, does Bruce Brown hate the Lakers? It seems like it. It feels like he wants smoke with everybody on the team. My mom is in the chat here. Happy first anniversary at Jovan. Thank you. And she's the one, I don't know if you guys saw on X or on Instagram, she had the Buha's Block cake made. So yeah, shout out to her for getting that done. Choco Thunder asks, do you guys go and get those free tacos in every Lakers one? I do not. I know some people do, but because we exit a different way. Like I go through a side door, and then also by the time I'm leaving, there's no more guards there in terms of like arena staffers who are handing out the Jack in the Box tacos. So I unfortunately missed that. Thank you, Blizo. And Romel says Jovan Buha branded sea salt spray. I like that. Did I skip your question, Kane Carter? What are some role players you think could be stars or superstars in the future if they had their own team and rise, like Jimmy or Mikhail, even Laurie? Role players. I mean, I think Austin, if he was in a different situation, could be an all-star. I don't know how good the team would be if Austin's your best player, obviously, but I think he could put up all-star level numbers as like kind of have like that sort of like the season that like D'Lo had when he made an all-star team in Brooklyn with like that young team. I think honestly the guy that we'll see. I think I'm high. I mean, you guys know I've been high on Max, and like I feel like there are some shades of Mikal Bridges with Max. Now, I also think Mikal Bridges was miscast as a number 1 or even number 2. Like to me, he needs to be a number 3 or maybe even number 4 offensively. And I think Max can, like, that's probably Max's ultimate upside. I'm not saying he's going to get there, but if you're looking at like I thought he showed a lot before the trade and then even in Dallas. I know he's cooled off, but I don't want to give only late. I mean, I think Kamara, again, like I guess I don't know if that's like a star, superstar. It's tough to say off the top of my head. I think Herb Jones and Trey Murphy are both really good, and I guess those are two guys that in New Orleans that I think could have they have more of the body of Mikal Bridges compared to like a Max. But I think those guys are a little bit more known commodities. I think, I mean, this is not really like a crazy take either, but Amen Thompson, I think is a really bright future and could be a superstar. So I think he's got some of those shades of like a Jimmy Kawhi type. So I hope some of those are it. But appreciate everyone in the chat. Kurt Affair, RGN Cal 4 says he would buy a hoodie. People are saying breaded cereal. Dadgum Batman asks thoughts on Whataburger. Maybe I'm ordering the wrong thing. I have not really enjoyed Whataburger. I felt it's overrated. However, I know there are people from Texas that come to LA and say In-N-Out's overrated, so it might just be like a territorial thing, but I thought the melt that I had there was better than the burger. But if we're judging the burger, which I think if we're talking fast food and burgers and stuff, like I think if I'm saying your melt is better, like I don't know. The Whataburger burgers I've not really enjoyed, but I hope I'm not offending any Texas people. Okay. I'm going to wrap here, though. I am going to call it a night and take some NyQuil and get some rest. I will be back tomorrow with a new episode of Buha's Block. I appreciate you again for rocking with me for the past year. Whether you are brand new and this is your first stream or you've been a day one since the beginning, I appreciate you. I say thank you. And looking forward to where this goes in the next year. Again, trying to invest as much time and energy and effort and resources into this to make everything better. Never satisfied with it, but better guests, better content, better ideas, memberships, merch, all that great stuff down the road. More meetups, building more of a community, and building a place where you guys all feel welcomed. And it's all thank you to the late night gang. So again, whether it's your first stream or your 100th, however many I've done, you are part of the late night gang now, and I appreciate you. So that'll do it for tonight's show. Thank you all so much for watching, listening, And for those on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on channel notifications, and like and comment on this video. For those on listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. I'll be back tomorrow with a new episode of Buha's Block covering 10 storylines from the past 10 games. So be on the lookout for that. I'll talk to you all very soon. Again, thank you so much. I'm humbled. I'm flattered. I'm grateful. I appreciate you all. Gonna get some rest so I can deliver even better content the rest of the week. And we will all talk very soon.